Hello and welcome to part 2 of me making a cute summer outfit for, well, me. And it's been almost a week since my last video, but I took the time to improve a lot of stuff, like better motion tracking, new character animations, eyes that now respond slightly to my emotions, etc. And let's get started with the summer dress so that we can hopefully finish it before summer is over. And I just noticed that I forgot to toggle the dress on. Let me fix this real quick. So let's begin with setting up the texture for the skirt. So I loaded up the original reference picture I created for my thumbnail and then quickly painted a rough sketch over the default A pose of my character using the colors from the reference picture. And then I cut out the head and placed it on the head-holding device. On the next step, I loaded up my sketch into Stable Diffusion Web UI and applied the usual in-painting settings. Confetti mix, CFG 0.65 and in paint mode mask only, while marking just the skirt area and then the head. The head basically turned out perfect on first attempt. For the skirt, I kept rolling until the skirt folds looked nice and then manually fixed some details on the belt and re-rolled those again at a low CFG to bake them into the picture. Not gonna lie, getting a clean belt that wasn't defying logic in Stable Diffusion was way harder than it had any right to be. But luckily, the mad lads over on the SD subreddit are already working on a Flux model anime fine-tune, so I just keep patient for now. I'm just saying, I upgraded my PC and it's ready for the inevitable pony flux. So, Astrolite Heart, please don't let me down. The world of locally installed image AI needs to be saved by the power of Pony Horny once again. But I digress. Let's cut our freshly created skirt into parts. I basically need 2 layers here, a background layer and a top layer. The bottom layer contains all parts partially occluded by the skirt folds, and the top layer contains, well, the skirt folds. And this is the result if I layer them on top of each other. Unfortunately, there is no more space on the sprite sheet for the skirt, so I had to make a new one. Please remind me to change the sprite dimensions for kimono springs when I start designing characters for this game, because this is way too small for most of the textures I use. So, we're done in GIMP. Awesome. Let's hop back into Godot to start rigging the skirt. New polygon. Attached to the character skeleton. Setting up the texture. And now we're ready for some fancy UV mapping. So we'll start with the layer underneath and make sure that we define points around convenient points of the texture, having these visible dents here so that the deformation is easier later on. So I set up the outline vertices, but didn't do the inner ones yet, because I want the outline vertices to be the same for the bottom layer and the top layer, but not the inner vertices. Also, I already did the rigging for the outline, which makes it more consistent to rig for both layers, because now both layers will have the exact same outline deformation guaranteed. And after placing it on the character, I can now simply duplicate the polygon and move the mapping to the top layer part of the sprite sheet. Because we put our border vertices at these connection points here between the top and the bottom layer, it's actually very easy to make these 2 layers match. Now that both layers are in the correct position, we can check out real quick if they are properly glued together by playing some animations. And as we can see, they connect perfectly. And we can ignore the deformations in the center because we don't have the inner vertices yet, and we still need to add those. So, took me quite a while, but this is how the UV mapping looks now with the added inner vertices. And this is how the character animations look now. Much better, but then again, I think the effort I took to separate the layers into top and bottom layer was probably not even needed. I feel like I could have achieved something similar looking with just one layer and clever vertex positioning. Well, maybe next time. So, now we just need to add a shadow underneath the skirt. And I already added a shadow texture to this part sheet. So I'll just go ahead and copy and paste what I already have for the school uniform shadow and simply exchange the map texture. So let's apply the same process to the other leg as well. Actually, let's tint the color of the shadow a bit more towards red and blur it a bit and add a little bit of perspective. And yes, this looks much better now. Let's add a shadow from the plot on the skirt as well. Let's change the color a bit and yes, perfect. Now we just need to match the position with the original booba shadow and done. Okay, so let's repeat the process with the shadow thrown by the shirt so that we have more options on how to combine the clothing pieces. Let's do a quick check how it looks with the textures turned on. Okay, now the last thing I want to add to the skirt is a little bit of the back side of the skirt visible between the legs. So let's do this. So this new texture piece is basically just a copy of the lower part of the skirt, horizontally flipped, recolored, and a little bit of deformation added. Sometimes it's little details like this that make all the difference. Alright, we're done with the skirt, and I think it turned out really well. So let's finalize this new outfit by adding the sun hat as well. And luckily, adding mostly static objects like this is much easier than fabric and clothing and stuff. And as usual, we split up our object in a foreground and a background layer and then stitch it together. I also made the bow on the head a separate texture to increase the parallax effect that we are going for, and it will also make it much easier to animate. Okay, so to achieve the parallax effect, I basically increase the influence of a bone that follows the back of the head from right to left, and this makes the head look like it's actually rotated, not just repositioned. I also gave some of the hair bones a little bit of influence over the bow ends to make it look a little bit more jiggly. Okay, to finalize the head, I added a little bit of shading underneath, and with that, we are basically done for today. The only thing still missing is an adjusted haircut, because obviously, Kanna's trademark oversized ponytail does not fit under that hat. But we're gonna do this in another video. I still need to update the resolution of the back hair anyway, so I might as well do both in one session. So, we finally made it to the ending card. And there's one more thing to do, which is showing off our cute new beach outfit. And that's it. We've finished our first outfit set. And I gotta say, that was quite the experience. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you again next week. I'm going to take a few days off to continue working on the next manga page, so I think the next video will be on Wednesday again. Oh, by the way, let me know in the comments if you noticed the difference in terms of puppeteering and the facial animations, because I really worked hard on those and I hope it was a noticeable improvement. So, that's it for today. Bye bye!